What if the worst day of your life was also the day you finally started to get it? Today, we're diving into this incredible story of transformation. It's about a man who lost his entire past, and by doing that, he somehow found his real future. Get this, it's the story of a doctor who had to become a patient to learn what it really means to heal someone.
So let's really think about this question for a second. I mean, usually when we think about accidents, we think about loss, right? They're destructive. They take things away. But this story, it flips that whole idea on its head. It asks us, what if in the middle of all that wreckage, you could actually build something new, something stronger? Could a horrible event actually unlock a better version of you?
All right, so let's meet the guy at the heart of all this, Dr. Pier Dante Piccioni. Before everything went sideways, his life looked perfect. I mean, on paper, he had it all. He was at the absolute top of his game, the peak of his profession. But, as we're about to find out, his whole success story had this one huge missing piece.
And we're not just talking successful. He was a force of nature. Seriously, picture the kind of doctor you see in a movie. Super confident, making split-second decisions, running a crazy busy ER. That was him. He was the guy people counted on when everything was on the line. He literally held life and death in his hands every single day.
Those words, that was him to a T. And this wasn't just about what people thought of him. It was about the results he got. His brain, it earned him respect. His skills, you just couldn't argue with them. From the outside looking in, he'd built this perfect career. He was the ultimate authority, the one who always had all the answers. And there it is. That's the missing chapter. I mean, that's a pretty blunt way to put it, right? For all his technical genius, something just wasn't connecting. He was a total master of the science of the medicine, but a complete beginner when it came to just being human. He saw the chart, he saw the data, he saw the disease, but he just couldn't seem to see the actual person sitting right there in front of him. And that, right there, is the key detail that makes what's about to happen so mind-blowing.
So you have all this success, this whole identity he's carefully built up for himself, and it was all sitting on a foundation that was about to be just completely wiped out. Because one single event on a totally normal day was about to bring his entire world to a screeching halt and force him to start all over again, right from square one. And it happens in a flash, a violent crash, a sudden jarring stop, and just like that, poof, 12 years of his memory just gone. He wakes up in a hospital, but this time he's not the doctor, he's the patient, and he has no idea who his own wife is. He doesn't recognize his own kids. The man he was, that brilliant doctor, was just erased. Okay, just try to wrap your head around that switch. For years, he was the one striding down the hospital hallways, holding the clipboard, calling all the shots. And now he's the one lying in the bed, confused, vulnerable, completely dependent on everyone else. He was now on the other side of the stethoscope, and let me tell you, the view from there was totally different.
He'd spent years and years studying medicine, right? But the biggest lesson he would ever learn, it wasn't in any textbook. Lying in that hospital bed, he finally learned about empathy. And it wasn't some abstract idea anymore. It was real. It was that raw feeling of being scared, that sting of not knowing what's next, that simple comfort you get from a kind word. This was a lesson he couldn't study for. He had to live it.
And so the long, hard road to rebuilding his life began. I mean, he didn't just have to relearn facts about his own life. He had to learn how to connect with the people in it all over again. And somewhere in that process of rediscovery, he realized that this new empathy, this thing he learned the hard way, was completely changing how he thought about the one thing he was supposed to be an expert in, medicine. And this really shows you the change, right? It's like night and day. Before the crash, he was all about the disease, the chart, the symptoms, the science. But after, he learned to care for the patient, the actual person with all their fears and their own story. He went from this cold, distant authority figure to a warm, compassionate partner in their healing. He basically became the doctor he never was before, the kind of doctor every single one of us hopes to have. So what's the big takeaway from all this? What's the final lesson we can pull from this insane story of loss and, well, rebirth? It's actually a huge paradox, one that kind of redefines what it even means to be a whole person. Okay, here's the most important part. What he lost in memories, he more than made up for in humanity. The crash literally stripped away his ego, all that professional pride, that emotional armor he'd spent years building. And in the empty space that was left behind, something way more important started to grow. A real, genuine desire to connect with his patients, to care for them as people.
And that really leaves us with this one last thought. Dr. Piccioni's story isn't saying we have to choose between science and compassion. Not at all. In fact, it kind of proves that the best medicine, the most powerful healing, happens when you combine brilliant science with real, heartfelt compassion. It shows that true healing isn't just about fixing the disease. It's about caring for the human being who's going through it.